Welcome to the History Channel. Today we'll be talking about the Industrial Revolution. The Industrial Revolution was a period of time from the 18th to the 19th century where major changes in agriculture, manufacturing, mining, transportation, and technology had a profound effect on the cultural conditions of the time. It began in the United Kingdom, then substantially spread through Europe, North America, and eventually the world. The Industrial Revolution marks a major turning point in human history. Almost every aspect of daily life was affected in some way. Most noticeable was the average in income and population to begin exhibiting substantial growth. In the 2 centuries following 1800, the world's average per capita income increased over tenfold, while the world's population increased over sixfold. Starting in the later parts of the 18th century, there began a transition in parts of Great Britain, profusely manual labor and draft animal-based economy towards machine-based manufacturing. It started with the new technology of the textile industries, the development of iron-making techniques, and the increased use of refined coal. Trade expansion was enabled by the introduction of canals, improved roads, and railways.
The introduction of steam-powered, fueled primarily by coal, wider utilization of water wheels, and of powered machinery, mainly in textile manufacturing, underpinned the dramatic increases in production capacity. The development of all-metal machine tools in the first 2 decades of the 19th century facilitated the manufacture of more production machines for manufacturing and other industries. The effects spread through Western Europe and North America during the 19th century, eventually affecting most of the world, a process that continues as industrialization. The impact of this change on society was enormous. The first Industrial Revolution, which began in the 18th century, merged into the Second Industrial Revolution around 1850. When technological and economic progress gained momentum with development of steam-powered ships, railways, and later in the 19th century with the internal combustion engine and the electric-powered generation, the period of time covered by the Industrial Revolution varies with different historians. Eric Hobsbawm held that it broke out in Britain in the 1780s and was not fully felt until the 1830s or 1840s, while T.S. Ashton held that it occurred roughly between 1760 and 1830. Some 20th century historians, such as John Clapham and Nicholas Crafts, have argued that the process of economic and social change took place gradually, and the term revolution is a misdemeanor. This is still a subject of debate among historians. GDP per capita was broadly stable before the Industrial Revolution began, an era of per capita economic growth. In capitalist economies, economic historians are in agreement that the onset of the Industrial Revolution is the most important event in the history of humanity since the domestication of animals and plants. Follow me.
Textiles. Cotton spinning used water frames, spinning jenny, and the spinning mill. It is a combination of a spinning jenny and the water frame. This was patented in 1769, and so came out of the patent in 1783. The end of the patent was rapidly followed by the erection of many cotton mills. Similar technology was applied to spinning wool and yarn from various textiles and flax for linen. The steam power. The improved steam engine, invented by James Watt and patented in 1775, was mainly used to power pumps for pumping water out of mines, but from 1780s was applied to powering other types of machines. This enabled rapid development of efficient semi-automatic factories on a previous unimaginable scale in places where water power was not available. Iron making. In the iron industry, coke was finally applied to all stages of iron smothering, replacing charcoal. This had been achieved much earlier for lead and copper, as well as for the production of pig irons in a blast furnace. But the second stage in the production of bar iron depended on the use of potting and stamping, for which a patent expired in 1786, and pulling, patent by Henry Crock, in 1783 and 1784.
These represent three leading sectors in which there were key innovations, which allowed the economic takeoff by which the Industrial Revolution is usually defined. Later inventions such as the power loom and Richard Trevithick's high-pressure steam engine were also important in growing industrialization of Britain. The application of steam engines to powering cotton mills and ironworks enabled these to be built in places that were most convenient because other resources were available, rather than where there was water to power a water mill. And the Industrial Revolution led to a population increase, but the chances of surviving childhood did not improve throughout the Industrial Revolution, although infant mortality rates were reduced miraculously. There was still limited opportunity for education, and children were expected to work. Employers could pay a child less than an adult, and even though their productivity was comparable, there was no need for strength to operate an industrial machine. And since the industrial system was completely new there were no experienced adult laborers. This made child labor the labor of choice for manufacturing in early phases of Industrial Revolution between the 18th and 19th century. In England and Scotland in 1788, 2/3 of the workers in 143 water-powered cotton mills were described as children. This concludes the history news for today.